morning. Trish here with Divine Journey Yoga in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm so glad to be with you today. Today's class will be focusing on the idea of fluidity and stability, and hopefully we'll get a little core and low back in there as well. I hope you enjoy. Let's get started. Let's sit for a moment. Today we're going to just practice Hatha Yoga. I'll probably add in a few things for our core, some good stretches for the low back. But it's funny, I say that at the beginning of class and then I just move through the class, and at the end I think, I hope that helped. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So please always remember to do what really works for you. You can be curious, you can try things, say to yourself, well, I don't really want to do that, but I'll try it, and then just let it go right away if it causes any kind of pain. So let's start with just breathing, just noticing the breath. And of course, if you'd prefer to lay back, you're welcome to do that as well. We'll all get there eventually. Maybe a few big breaths, kind of stretching up into the upper lungs or down into the belly a little bit. And see if even in your breath you can practice both the fluidity and stability. So to me that would mean fluid breath is flowing very smoothly. So I like to smooth out those transitions between inhale and exhale, and then again between the exhale and the inhale. But also creating a regular pace. Regularity helps us establish some stability in our lives. And then, of course, the flip side of that is that when we get thrown off of our routine, we have anxiety. So let's look at being able to move fluidly between the need for stability and the ability to be flexible, even in our breath. So we'll just do that together. A couple more breaths here. Just one more smooth, regular breath. Whatever that means to you. And as you let it go, you'll just slowly make your way onto your back. Just taking your time as you lie down, adjusting, and first finding that moment where you let the back start to soften, checking in. Sometimes you'll feel something in one spot or another. Just take those deep breaths. I'm going to start with my knees bent, my feet on the floor, but pretty soon I'm going to go into a full body stretch on the floor. So if you'd prefer to have your legs long, that's fine too. I'm going to start here by inhaling my right arm over the head, all the way to the floor, reaching through the right side of the body. The right lower back arches just a little. And then on the exhale, we float that arm back down and then try the other arm for the next inhale. Feeling it arch and stretch gently. And then bring that hand down. Now the next inhale, I'm going to lift my right arm and stretch my left leg out and lengthen diagonally on that inhale. On the exhale, I can replace foot and hand and try the other side. Inhale, we stretch across the diagonal. And exhale, we soften back to neutral again. Let's do that diagonal a couple more times. Inhale, stretch out right arm, left leg. Arch the back, and then exhale, float it all back down. Just breathing. Feeling the anchor point of the tailbone, the shoulders, the back of the head, and how we flow around that stabilized point. One more time, each side. Inhale and exhale. And then as you come back for our final stretch, we're going to lift both arms, stretch both feet down. Inhale, full body stretch. And then float everything back to center. Pull the knees in, flatten out the lumbar spine and rock a little down there. Now I want to add a little side stretch to our early movements here as we begin our movement today. We'll begin to inhale and stretch the arms and legs apart again, and then start to curve the body, the hands and the feet both toward the same edge of the mat. So I'm curving to the left, my right side is stretching. Coming back to center, and then inhale, stretch out long, and then curve toward the right edge of the mat, stretch the left side of the body, and then right back to center. Arms float down, feet on the floor, rocking the knees side to side, just enjoying how the whole body has gotten engaged. Keep moving here. We're gonna move into a gentle, slow flow a little bit. So again, remaining in contact with your stable points where your body touches the floor. We'll pull both knees into the chest, squeeze a little, rock a little, and then holding on to the right knee, we're going to inhale the left leg up in the air, push through the heel, maybe row the ankle. On the exhale, slowly lower the left leg to the floor and let it hover right above the mat as you inhale once more. On the exhale, float the left leg back up and pull it into your chest, finishing by squeezing all the air out of the diaphragm. Good. Inhale, the right leg lifts up, press through the heel, roll the toes. Exhale, lower the leg slowly to hover. In the hovering position, we breathe in, maybe move the foot a little. And on the exhale, we lift the leg back up and bring the knee back into the chest and rock a little bit. Now I would like to invite you to do that 2 more times on each side, just lifting, inhale, lowering, exhale, hover to inhale, and lift and squeeze in to exhale, each side. Go ahead and just follow your breath. And you're welcome to go slower or faster, take a few more breaths in there, just moving with fluidity and stability, feeling that inside of you. Maybe finishing up that last side. There is no hurry. If you'd like to do it once or twice more on each side, you're welcome to do that. And we're all going to just end up with our knees into the chest, spreading the knees out a little wider, maybe making some circular movements. We're going to move into our Apanasana, opening and closing the knees, really rocking into the pelvis. So I like to cup my hands right over my kneecaps, fingers pointing right down the front of the legs. As I inhale, open the arms, press the knees away. Maybe even slide my kneecaps to the fingertips and let the toe tips tap the floor. And then exhale, draw everything back inward. And you're welcome to widen the knees if you like. We're just inhaling, rocking away, arching the back, tipping onto the tailbone and the toes. And exhaling, squeezing it in together. So inhale, exhale at your own rate. And I love to just settle in to the deep, fluid, quiet movement of Apanasana. I'll just give us a little bit of quiet. And when you feel like you've really massaged that pelvic rock, you'll slowly let your feet come down to the mat, rock the knees side to side. We'll do a little twist. So we're just going to scoot our hips a little to the right. And you can either leave your toes on the floor to let your knees rock to the left, or you can pick the knees up, draw them towards you as you rock to the left. Either way, you're going to get a nice deep twist. Once you land the legs off to one side, you might slide a block or blanket between the legs or under the bottom leg there. We're going to take 2 deep breaths right across the chest. Wiggle your fingers and look around a little as you gather your core. Lift the knees upward. Put the feet back on the floor if they're not there, and scoot the hips off to the left edge. And then rocking the knees to the right. Settling in, and then taking those 2 deep, smooth breaths. Using your core strength to lift the knees back to center and settle the feet so you can scoot the hips back to the middle of the mat. And we'll do one quick hamstring stretch, lifting both legs upward. The low back is nice and flat. We press through the heels and just kind of roll the ankles, stretch out the backs of the legs. There's a nice little bend in the knees. And you can walk the hands up the backs of the legs, maybe even lift head and shoulders, drawing a little bit of a stretch down the back of both legs. And of course, if you prefer, the head can be on the floor. A couple more breaths. And we'll begin to engage our core here, holding the right leg up. We're just going to lower the left leg. And of course, you could instead hold the right knee in a little closer. But this time, as we lift the left leg, we're going to go so slow and just breathe in a fluid round of breath as you feel the weight of that leg engage with the core there. Yeah, feel the weight of that leg. And then as it comes into position next to the other foot, we switch and lower now the right leg. Feel the weight of the leg hovering above the floor. You can let it tap. And then really slowly engaging with gravity as you lift that right leg up. And both knees can come in and both feet can come to the floor as you set up for bridge pose. Hands down beside you, maybe rock the knees a little. Tuck the shoulder blades under. Take everything out from under your head, please, and begin to lift and lower your hips. Make this a very fluid movement. Try to find the stability in the flow. And it's okay if you feel a little bit of a wobble, a little bit of shaking. Just keep smoothing it out. Smoothing out the breath. Breathing deeply. And you don't have to move with the breath here. You could just keep breathing and moving. Or maybe you will begin to link the breath with the body. Maybe just listening to the sound of your breath or the sounds in the room around you. Engaging and disengaging that back and forth of our lives. Things come together, things fall apart. Oscillation, black and white, yin and yang. Just a couple more times. And as you feel like you're ready, you'll just settle into any resting posture that comes to mind. Letting the body do nothing but breathe. And of course, all those inner workings going automatically without us even asking. All of the lymph flow, the blood circulation, oxygen absorption, just a little bit of gratitude for the wonderful workings of our body. Just 2 more breaths, finding that moment of rest when you're ready. And then gently bringing the knees into a bent position, rocking a few times and rolling over onto your side into seat pose. And really let the body get soft, a little bit heavy as you rest on your side. Not planning anything else, just being right here for a moment. I want to invite you to open your eyes and just look around. Notice what you notice. What do you like to look at in the space around you? Sometimes we're at home and it's messy, but there's something maybe beautiful on a shelf somewhere, or just the weave of the carpet, something like that. Just enjoy something and take another deep breath. We're just going to do a gentle flow here on our side. We're going to begin to pick up the top leg, keeping the knee bent, roll the leg forward, up and around in a big circle, and then pull the knee into the chest, squeeze it, point the toes back behind you, half bow, and you can play with the leg on the floor. It can be more bent or straightened out, and as you stretch into bow, get your shoulder involved. You don't have to even touch the foot. You can just reach both fingers and toes back behind you. And then eventually the top hand comes forward and the top leg stretches down the mat and taps the floor. And then it lifts all the way up. We lift it straight up in the air. Grab the leg. If it's within reach, you can grab toes, you can wrap a strap and just get a nice deep stretch right up the inner and outer part of the leg. One more big breath here. And then soften and bend the knees and re-stack. And we're just going to do that 2 more times. Just take your time, holding one piece of the flow a little longer, whatever works for you. Just rolling the hip around, drawing it in, pushing it back, stretching it out, and lifting it up. And just ignore me, do your own speed, your own savoring when you find a good spot to be in. And let yourself pause at the end, seed pose, and then we'll do that 1 more time just on our own. Keep breathing and feeling the smooth fluidity of the breath. And before we switch ends of the mat, we'll take one big heart twist. Top hand reaches forward and up and way back. You can allow the shoulders to settle and stretch as the hips soften. A couple breaths here. As you bring that arm back to the front, use it to help you push yourself up, crawling up and letting the legs go to the other end of the mat. Now, if you prefer, you can always just roll over onto your other side. I just like to be able to see you still. So you're welcome to get there. It's a nice time to maybe take a drink and readjust. And then relax, seed pose, really letting the body settle again. See how it feels on this side. Little different flow for the heart. A little different movement of the blood from the head down to the toes. Look around again, that orienting moment, mapping the room, coming back into our bodies. And then if you remember from the other side, we're just going to move through that flow, big hip movement with the knee bent. You're also welcome to stretch the leg out if you prefer that. Draw the knee in and push the foot back. Keep going. If you know what to do next, that's fine. You can stretch the leg and lift it up. And if you prefer to just hang out in a bow pose the whole time, you can do that. It's your body that you're here to nurture and move this morning. So paying attention to what works for you. We're just going to do this 3 times. If you lose count, don't worry about it. We'll get there. Just once more, really engaging with that fluid movement. Feeling the transition from pose to pose. And how even in the movement, we do need stability. We need to slow down and be aware. There's a little mindfulness. Nice deep breath right down into the belly. And then we're going to take our time. Top arm lifts up and reaches way back. Heart opening twists. You can let the shoulders settle, readjusting the hips for a deep breath or 2 here. Notice what's going on in that top leg. And we are going to bring the top arm over, push it into the floor, come on up all the way to table pose. And I like to slide a blanket under my knees for that. Hands and knees Spread the fingers wide, decide if you'd like your toes curled under, and begin to rock the tailbone up and down. Get the shoulders and the neck as involved as you would like to be. And you might start out more dramatic or more quietly. And we're just going to move here probably for a full minute. So that's going to be about 10 to 12 breaths. I really want to give the spine the time that it needs. I love to move slowly in yoga. And sometimes I can get lost in that movement, and sometimes it gets a little boring. So really notice what's happening for you and validate that. If you're bored, you're welcome to do planks and down dogs. No one can tell you not to. Finding that link of breath with movement. And you can't really do it wrong here. Inhale one way, exhale the other. You might start to add a little circular movement to the cat and cow. And when your wrists get tired, you might just stay for a moment longer, giving them just a tiny bit of stress, or you might decide that's enough and you're right down on your elbows, and we'll all end up on our elbows together eventually for a few more cat-cows. Just rocking, keeping the movement fluid, in and out, back and forth. Begin to mentally prepare for coming down onto your belly. If you'd like to slip another pose in, you're welcome. And then begin to widen the elbows and the knees apart. You might keep the blanket under you or slide it out, whatever feels right. And all the way down onto the floor. You can stay in Sphinx pose if you prefer that, but I'm going to go all the way flat. And let the body find that moment of Shavasana, stillness and rest. Keep the breath fluid and feel your contact with the ground. Where are those stabilizing points? And then bring to mind an experience of swimming. See if you can use your imagination to create some swimming movements here on the ground. Maybe you're just flutter kicking your legs, maybe lifting head and shoulders, maybe a little bit of that freestyle or crawl movement, one arm forward, one arm in. Maybe you're doing a little breaststroke, sweeping the hands through. Feel that the idea, the sensation of the water and the fluidity of movement. We're going to do this twice, so just be creative, and then we're going to take a rest, and then we'll do it again. And you have full permission to rest when you're ready and not wait for me. And maybe rest a little longer, a little shorter, just letting the body feel the moment of play and pleasure that we can find in the middle of a yoga practice. Just doing what feels like it might be a little bit fun. Maybe you can imagine you're a fish, or maybe a beautiful underwater plant. You might begin to feel the beating of your heart as you find that place of rest. Take a couple deep breaths down into the low belly. Feel it push against the mat. And then slowly begin to lift the head. Maybe walk the elbows in. We're crawling toward our plank moment here. So the knees are going to be way, of course, right where they are, way behind the hips. And I'm just going to lift the hips up and pause halfway. Pausing in that moment of engagement with the core. Take a couple breaths, maybe readjust elbows or knees. Feel the belly pull in to support you. And then just keep going, crawling back further and further, widening the knees a little more. Big toes can come together. Child's pose. And of course, you're welcome to roll onto your side or your back for your child's pose instead of being on your knees. And we're just going to breathe here, finding that place of rest again and again. Maybe 1 or 2 more breaths there. And then we're crawling back toward table pose once more. And we'll do just a gentle flow here on our hands and knees. And of course, you can always be on your elbows, or if your knees need a break, you could stand and place your hands on a table or a chair. So we're just going to take big cat and cow, drop the belly, and then round the back. And in the rounded position, lean into your right knee, pick up your left and draw it toward your nose. Rounding, breathing out. Good. Inhale, stretch the leg back, look forward, maybe add the opposite arm, reaching long. Exhale, bring the hand and knee back down and relax just for a moment in table pose. And then we will drop the belly, inhale, round the back, and exhale, pick up the right knee, bring it toward the nose. Finish the exhale and then reach back. Inhale, lengthen maybe the opposite arm. And then we're back down to neutral. Take a moment. We're going to do that 2 more times. Take your time. We begin with the belly drop, inhale. And then we round into the exhale. Pick up the knee toward the nose. Stretch the spine. And then inhale, add the leg behind and the arm in front. Opposites, and exhale to settle. Inhale, the belly drops. Exhale, the back rounds, the knee comes toward the nose. And inhale, stretch it out. Exhaling back down. Just do the next one on your own. You can add things, leave things out, whatever works best for you. And of course, at the end of your flow, you might want to sit back on your heels or widen the knees and sink toward the floor for child's pose again. So you could be sitting up or sinking down. Just take some deep breaths. Keep moving if you need a little continued stretching, or settle into stillness. In a moment, we'll be making our way mindfully up to a standing position. So you might start planning that journey now, your transitions, taking them carefully and mindfully, maybe a table pose and then a foot stepping forward, or lifting the hips into a down dog. Take your time, maybe clearing the mat. And then slowly standing up. Nice and tall. And once we get to standing, we just move the hips a little, sway, feel the soles of our feet. And I'd like to add some fluid movement to our standing poses today. And let's begin with the very simple movement of walking, and make it as fluid as you can. Feel the heel, the midfoot, the toes, and switch foot to foot. Feel that rolling, and just allow yourself to walk a moment or two. And when we change from being on the floor to standing, our brains, our nervous system needs a little bit of time to acclimate, to orient again, kind of notice the walls, where they are in relationship to you. And always have something nearby that you can grab hold of, a table, a wall, a chair, so that you feel supported. Because standing up, my friends, is all about balancing. So let's come to the short end of the mat and settle our feet first into mountain pose. Spread the toes a little bit, and then let the legs get stronger and the belly draws inward, the heart lifts, the head is right over the spine, so it's drawn back a little bit. Deep breaths here, just feeling the fluidity and the stability of this mountain pose. With your next inhale, lift the arms forward and up. Feel the lengthening of the body. On the exhale, palms come together and they slide to the heart as the knees begin to bend. Good. Lean into the ankles a little, the calves. You're welcome to lean all the way forward into a deep chair pose or to stay up a little higher. Because from here, we're going to move into our first one-legged stance. As we stand up, you might reach out for that support. Lean into one foot and lift the other knee up into crane pose. So I have my hand on my hip because I like to feel that creasing right there. I'm keeping the body tall, little bend in that standing knee. And we're just going to pause here. You can do whatever you like with your arms, your hands. Just feel the weight of the body in the standing leg and the engagement of the leg lifting in front. Another breath, you might roll the ankle. And then begin to bend the standing knee a little more deeply. Lean forward, reach back with the leg that's in the air, and pause at each part of the pose. Maybe pause as if you're stop motion here. The knee is still bent, and then we're going to reach that foot back, let the toes touch the floor, pause there. A little bit of a lunge, and then drop the heel back down to the floor, lean the shoulders right up over the hips, warrior one. Now check your feet. Mine are almost on the same line. So I'm going to heel toe my front foot a little wider, a little bit further toward the edge, so I've got a little bit bigger stance there. Good. And just lean into the feet, lean into the knees, the hips, kind of move them a little bit. And we're going to move into a little flow. Now, if your balance is feeling a little off today, or a little more than usual, hold on to a support, or simply bring your palms to your heart and settle, feeling the stability rather than focusing on the fluidity. If you feel okay with the idea of moving in this pose, we're going to open the arms out wide, maybe behind us, lean back just a little as we inhale. And then on the exhale, we're going to lean forward, bring palms together at the heart, reach through the forehead and the heel. Good. And as you're ready to inhale, you'll lean back, again, opening the arms, opening the chest, inhale, exhale, lean forward, bring the palms together, stretch it out. Good. Just a couple more times. And remember, if this doesn't feel right to you, just stay and breathe. Open the arms as wide as you like, and then back to center. And if your breath needs to be a little quicker and your movement slower, that's okay. Just one more time. Open and close. And as you lean forward, we're going to step that foot up, back to mountain, and just shift the weight side to side. Swing the hips, walk around a little bit. Just notice how you're feeling. Where do you feel the residual of that pose? In the foot? In the glute? In the heart, who knows? Roll those shoulders, just enjoy the moment. And maybe even come up and stretch the toes a little bit, side to side. Wiggle the feet. And I'm gonna go down to the other end of the mat. You're welcome to stay where you were and just do the other side. So always we start, the beginning for us is always mountain pose. The feet, the legs, the core, the heart, the head. Couple of deep breaths. And then slowly lifting the arms on the next inhale. Extend and hands together down to the heart, bend the knees. Find your chair pose variation, that moment of sinking into the legs. When you feel ready, you're going to slowly begin to stand, leaning now into the other foot, the other knee lifting upward into crane pose. That one-legged balance. Just see how that feels. Holding on to something, just letting your foot wobble. And it's funny, I think one of my ankles is a little stronger than the other, so I'm a little more stable on one side. Just let that be what it is. Keep breathing. A little more bend in the standing knee. Start to lean forward. Catch yourself mid-movement. Pause. And then step the leg back, slow motion here. Toes, pause, and then drop the heel. feel that moment when you find that base of the practice of the pose there, and then decide what to do with your feet if you need to have them a little different, a little differentiated, different tracks. All right, and then we can begin to settle, just settling into the pose first. Feeling okay in the low back. Sometimes the low back needs us to lean forward in warrior one. Please respect that. And then if you'd like, you can add the breathing with the arms. The inhale, opening the heart. And the exhale, leaning a little more deeply forward, hands back. And I'm gonna keep my knee bent there. Good. Inhale. And exhale. And it might be a very, very small movement, or it might be much bigger, depending on where your body goes this morning. Keep the breath connected, either to itself, the inhale and out, the inhale and the outhale, or the movement itself. Wherever you can smooth and create fluidity, look for that moment. Just 2 more times. Open and close. And as you lean forward that final time, come up onto those back toes and step the foot up and just walk around. Roll out the wrists a little bit, move through the elbows, let your body rest. Good. And we're gonna come into our wide angle shape. I'm gonna bring a block with me for support, stepping the feet wider and wider apart. I'm gonna plant that block right in front of me in the middle, and then just feel the length of the spine for the mountain pose to start us off, and then leaning forward, a little bend in the knees, bringing the hand to the block, both hands to the block. And maybe take one hand to that same ankle and just slide it down, get a little stretch on your back there. We're just a little bit over to one side. And then back through center and over toward the other side. Just paying attention to how this feels for you. A little tiny bend in the knees, always important. You could also scratch those mosquito bites. Yay for the rain. All right, just a couple more breaths, letting the back of the body ease and stretch. Maybe bring the head a little lower. And then as you bring the head up, let the back of the head lead the way, so that then your shoulders and then your mid-back, so you're rolling back and rather than rounding. Good, we're just gonna turn the right toes out and bend into the right knee. And you might choose to just rest in warrior two, arms at the height of the shoulders, or you might choose to add a fluidity here. Inhale, the back hand drops, the right hand, front arm reaches up. Exhale and leaning toward the bent knee, maybe hand or forearm to the thigh. Good. Inhaling into that exalted warrior and exhaling into extended side angle, or you may find a pose, one spot where you need to stay and simply breathe and experience that. Just pay attention to where you go here and what feels right to you, keeping the belly strong to support that core. And when we add movement to our standing poses, we're adding a lot of balance work. Good, just one more. Inhale, exhale. We'll end up leaning our forearm on that thigh. Let's take the hand behind us to the low back, open the shoulder, settle in. And if you're interested, you might plant the hand on the palm on the thigh and start to straighten the knee into a triangle pose. The shoulders just rise a little. Deep breath. Maybe a little deeper stretch. And then the head and heart lift. And we turn our toes forward. And let's step our feet together. Maybe let the arms swing a little. Swing the legs. Just notice how you're feeling. What I'm looking for is kind of a moving sensation, not just around the waist or the core, but also from the toes, through the legs, the hips, all the way to the shoulders and the jaw. So Just see what you're feeling there. And we'll move back into our wide angle when you're ready. Let's lean forward, enjoy that stretch once more. Maybe use the block. You might move your hips a little or add a little twist. Head rising, flattening the back. And then the left toes can turn out. And you can check that alignment of the left heel to the middle, the arch of the back foot, to see how that feels to you. And then bend into the left knee, open the heart, maybe just hang out in warrior two. Or add the fluid movement. Exalted warrior, back hand to the thigh, front hand rises. And then switching slowly into extended angle, hand to the thigh, arm over. Just see how it feels to be moving or holding, maybe staying in one place or another a little longer. Maybe once more. And this time, as you're exhaling and coming down toward that thigh, bring your hand to the thigh. The other hand slides behind your back. Shoulder rolls open and we straighten out the knee, leaning into our triangle pose if that's where you want to go. You could stay in extended angle instead. Sometimes I push right into that hip crease. Just help keep that femur. That femur is really the stabilizing point here and the drawing in of the belly. Just a couple more breaths. And bending the knee, rising upward with head and shoulders, toes forward and stepping together. Okay, we got a little warmed up. That felt good. Good. Moving the shoulders, the hips, the spine. We are going to make our way back down to the floor. Do a little bit of seated breathing and stretching. So take your journey there, however you like to go. You can just plop right down. Nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, I think one of the reasons I want to do yoga for the rest of my life is because I want to be able to continually be able to get up and down off the floor. That is an important skill for me, just to know my body is capable of that. So, all right, as we find that seated position, legs can stretch out, or maybe you prefer a different position. Just honor that. Let the spine get tall at first, and if you need that support underneath you, a blanket or a pillow is really nice to help the spine feel like it can kind of naturally be nice and long. Yeah, alrighty, wiggle those toes, roll the ankles a little bit. I just want to pause and let our bodies kind of slowly slow down. I'm going to begin to just gently rock side to side. And you might go deeper sooner than I do. You're also welcome to add the arms. I'm going to let my shoulders have a little break and just get my head involved. So just really listen or notice where your intuition takes you here. Legs just soft, toes are relaxed. And then choosing one of the sides, plant the hand in a good solid position and begin to lean a little deeper. Take the upper arm up and over the body and let it sweep down and around. Maybe add the breath. Inhale as the arm sweeps up and exhale as it sweeps down and forward. You can let the eyes follow the hands if the neck likes that. Sometimes my neck prefers to just look down. So just listen to that intuition as well. A couple more breaths here. And the next time your hand comes down, let it rest on the leg and bring the head over the leg and bring the other arm to the leg, or maybe hands to either side of that leg. Flatten up the feet and bend the knees a little if you like, leaning just a little deeper into your side bending stretch. Now, if you have osteoporosis, you're keeping your shoulders back, your heart high. If not, if there's no osteoporosis or disc issues there, you can let your nose come toward the knee. It's not needing to touch it. We're just going to take one more breath. Lift with the back of the head, leading the way as you rise up. Okay, let's lean back, bending the knees and rocking the hips side to side, just letting yourself feel that movement again. And then slowly widening the legs, beginning to rock side to side, move back into that stream, into that flow. Choosing the next side, you're going to lean deeply into, hand supporting you on the floor. The other arm reaches up and begins to sweep around, adding to the stretch through the back and the side, the armpit, all around the ribs. Bringing hydration into our fascia. That fascia under the arm can get lumpy because our arms are down all the time. It's just like the wrinkles in our shirts. That's what happens to our fascia. It gets wrinkled up and it gets tight. So this is really nice for that. And you might go one direction for a while and then in the other. Ah, yes. A couple more times. Keep breathing. And then bringing the hand to now this leg on the side we're leaning toward, and the other hand there as well, or on either side of the leg. Get a little bit of that side stretching. Feel free to bend the knees a little more. A couple more breaths. Lifting the head and shoulders and leaning back, bending those knees and rocking nice and deep. And we are going to rock ourselves into a zigzag pose. So it does not matter which side your knees are on, just end up with them going one direction and the feet going the other. A little bit of a zigzag here. And then just kind of rock through the hips a little bit of those circles with the head on the ceiling. I like to call these Sufi Circles, sort of swiveling around the core there. And we are going to eventually twist toward our back leg first. Lift the heart, reach behind a little. And then all the way to the other side, hands on either side of the knee, walk the hands forward. This is the beginning of our pigeon pose. And you might walk the hands way back behind you and get more of a twist. Or you might walk the hands way forward and lay the belly down on the thigh and reach back with the leg that's behind you and roll into a deep pigeon. It's really up to you where you want to go. You can stay quite high. We're just going to take 3 more breaths here. As you're ready to transition out of the pose, begin to use the prop of the hands to help lift you up. Keep the back long and tall, lean way back. Lift the knees, rock them a few times, and then scoot the feet toward the other side. Let the knees slowly find their position. Rock a little, those circles with this on the ceiling with our head, just as if we have a crayon on the top of our head there. Or strapped to our back. Feel that movement, always moving, lotioning the inner workings of our joints. And then slowly twisting toward the feet, letting the body feel that awkwardness for a deep breath. And then turning in the other direction toward the knee, maybe way off the knee for the big twist, or walking forward for pigeon, or a little bit of both. One more deep breath. Crawling yourself up, bringing the knees around and rolling onto your side for a moment of seed pose, relaxation, and then we will be on our backs. If you like to bring a block with you for sliding under your hips later, this is a great time. Getting all those props beside us for our Shavasana. We're not quite there yet. We're just gonna rock those hips a little and then roll onto our backs. Just allowing the body to go slowly, moving fluidly from one pose to the next. Let's come back into our breathing, connecting the inhale to the exhale, and then back to the inhale again. And we'll finish up with our little bit of a flow on the back. Just rocking the knees a few times first. And then pulling the knees in toward you, holding on to the legs in front or behind. Holding the right knee in, lifting the left leg up, and then lowering it to the floor where you can let it rest and begin to rock that right knee side to side. Eventually rolling it over the body into a twist, rolling the right leg toward the left. Maybe the toes tuck in behind the long leg knee and just stretching and rocking there, a couple breaths. And then we're rolling into tree pose. The knee is going wide. And the sole of the right foot is on the inside of the left leg. You can add the arms if you like for the next inhale. And then exhaling, hands come back down, feet come back to the floor, knees bending, rocking side to side a few times. And then both knees back in toward the body. Holding on to the left leg, we lift the right leg up and float it down to the floor slowly but surely, letting it rest. Rocking that left knee until it starts to roll over the body into the twist. And then back open for tree pose on this side. You can have the arms. And as the hands come down, the knees rebend, you might decide to do something more for your practice today, or you might be finished. Finished with the movement, ready for the stillness. Setting up for your Shavasana, giving yourself time to adjust, scoot. I highly recommend legs up the wall or over a chair. That's just so nice for that low back and core that we engaged today. Just breathing steadily, feeling where you are stabilized, where your body feels rooted to the floor. And letting the breath be the gentle movement, the fluid flow all around those stabilizing points. You might bring to mind things that are changing, things that have changed in your life, and the things that have stayed pretty much the same, and how we all have a little bit of both, sometimes more of one than the other. As you continue to settle, you can notice those very minute changes. That sometimes fluidity is in slow motion. Those tiny little micro transitions as the body begins to let go, or maybe it tenses in one place and then releases in another. Feel free to meditate on the sensations you're feeling or the simple rise and fall of your breath. Take several more really deep breaths. Feel free to let them go out your mouth or slowly through your nose. Maybe even bring your lips together to feel the air flowing out through your lips. And at some point in these deep breaths, you'll begin to move your fingers and your toes. And open the eyes and just look around. What do you notice? What is it nice to look at again in your environment there? Gently rolling over onto your side for a moment of gratitude. Just a quick list of what is good. And then flowing back up to a seated position. I am so grateful for this practice and for each of you. You can leave your hands in your lap or bring them together at your heart. Namaste.